everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie, Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica, and author, Giana Darling.
Morning,
guys.
Thank you for being here. We're excited to have you. I know we've talked about this for a couple of years. Every time we meet up with you, we're like, we got to get you on the channel. So I'm glad it finally happened.
Me too. I'm super excited to be here. I love that we're also all on the West Coast. We're like Pacific Northwest girlies. It's kind of great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Because a lot of the times we're always working with time differences, and a lot of the authors, I think for some reason, live on the West Coast and they never do. And, you know, which is great. It's just, I think everybody should live on the West Coast, apparently.
I agree with you. Obviously, West Coast, Best Coast. But it is funny. I feel like very few. I feel like there's like 10% of us live on the West Coast and the rest live central to east.
Yeah, because every time we go to a signing, I'll be like, well, they're here on the West Coast. They have to live on the West Coast. But no.
It's just because everyone wants to come visit because it's so awesome. They're like, oh, let's go at least for a signing.
So true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just jump right in. And so for people who don't know your books, which I would question this, but if somebody doesn't, what type of books do you write? And is there somewhere you would recommend people start?
Sure. So I write dark and forbidden romance. It's always at least one or the other. And I love operating in the morally gray space. So morally gray heroes, maybe some morally gray situations. My most popular series is definitely the Fallen Men series. It's currently 8 books, but it's ongoing. And it's a series of standalones about a motorcycle club in British Columbia, Canada. And I would definitely recommend that people start with Lessons in Corruption or Welcome to the Dark Side, which are the first 2 books in the series. And it really just acquaints you with my writing style, the kind of morally gray heroes that I like, the sassy heroines that bring them to their knees. I think it's a good taste of what Giana Darling stands for.
And if they start with the first one or the second one, which I think I started the second one, then went back to the first was my thing. But after that, do they need to read them in order?
I mean, you don't. And a lot of people enter the series on a random book and they are fine with that. I think personally, they are kind of meant to be read in order, and there is an overarching storyline and there's hints about future couples. And if you like breadcrumbs, if you like Taylor Swift as much as I do, then I would definitely read from the beginning so that you get like the full tapestry experience.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we do, or most people do, but I've had the question a couple of times. So
totally. And lots of people do enter, like if I have a new release, they'll read the new release first and then they'll go back. And it's totally, you're able to do that. I just think maybe it's best if you read it in order.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So when this video comes out, you will have just had a brand new release, which is My Dark Ever After, which is the second book in the My Dark Mafia romance. Oh, you have a copy of it.
Of course. Yeah. My handsome man.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So My Dark Ever After is the conclusion to the My Dark Mafia romance duet. So it's a mafia romance set in Italy, and it's kind of my love letter to Italy as well. My grandfather was Italian, and I've always been really obsessed with the culture. I love the country, the food, the people, everything. So it's kind of my love letter to all things Italian. And the hero is an Italian man who discovers this American girl on vacation who's having the worst time of her life. She's lost in the Tuscan countryside. Her car has broken down. The man that was going to help her fix her car has accosted her, and she's literally running away from him when she gets hit by the hero's car. So it's a series of unfortunate events for Guinevere, the heroine, to start off this journey. But it does get better from there. She meets Rafa and immediately thinks that he's her Italian Prince Charming. Unbeknownst to her, he is very much an Italian hardcore mafioso. And so there's this tension, especially for the first book, between what he really is and his criminal history and lifestyle, and who she thinks that he is and who she's falling in love with. So the second book picks up after the big reveal of who exactly Rafa is, and Guinevere is quite upset about that. And so they're separated at the beginning of My Dark Ever After, and it's kind of how they come back together and how Guinevere reconciles not only who Rafa is, but who he makes her want to become.
See, I think I'm getting desensitized because I was like, I don't understand what her problem is. She's awesome.
No.
It's so funny because it's something that I completely understand where you're coming from.
Mhm.
And it's something that I actually was talking about with my editor when I was writing this, and with my agent, because they read it early and they were like, oh, but really, like, why is she so upset? I mean, so what? He's like a criminal mastermind. And a lot of readers have that response too. And of course, it's because we love dark romance. So we're like, oh, give me a man with touch me and die vibes. Like, let's give me a man who literally would burn down the world for me. That sounds perfect and super green flag. Of course, even myself, I write about criminals almost exclusively. If you gave me a man who actually ran a criminal enterprise, who was actually in danger all the time and put me in danger all the time, no. Like, so no. And so I think that it's like, it's something I try to remember because obviously who I am is different from who my characters are. Guinevere is really sheltered. Her father keeps her like locked up tight because she also has a chronic illness that made her really sick growing up. Her exposure to the world is limited. She doesn't read dark romance. She doesn't watch thrillers or even action movies. Like, this girl reads Dante's Inferno and like daydreams about going to the poppy fields in Italy. So her experience means, of course, if she actually, like, the conclusion of My Dark Fairy Tale, the first book, is very violent. Exposing her to that violence for the first time in her life and how casual he is about it would be seriously alarming.
Yes, I know. I think about that because growing up, Mandy and I grew up in a very tiny, tiny, tiny town, and my grandpa was the chief of police. So I was exposed to a lot, right? But I was very sheltered. My dad's a pastor. Like, it was a little crazy, right?
Right. Small town romance vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exposed to something like that in my early 20s, I would have been floored. Nope, run the opposite direction. My life was ending. Yeah, no.
Totally. Just because it's like, and again, it's so one thing to have it in your head and to have it as a fantasy. And I think we're so, especially as dark romance readers, it's such a safe space for us to explore all of these fun fantasies that it's almost hard to disassociate and be like, well, what would this actually be like if it happened in real life, or to someone who doesn't like these kinds of things like we do? So a lot of the time, like for the reviews, for example, for book one, people were mad at Guinevere. And I was like, you know what? I get it. But at the same time, it is true to who she is. And so I actually don't mind making my readers mad at me. I think if I'm eliciting some sort of emotional response, that's the dream, right? And so if you don't agree with a character, that's okay. That's almost kind of the point. I want you to be upset with me or with them.
Exactly. I know a lot of people want, especially right now, and I think I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend where people are kind of pulling back from this, but they want these heroines who are like badass, can take on the world, have no emotions except being a smartass. And that's not normal. That's not
it's
how
not everyone.
It's not. And it's not how, that's not how a sheltered girl would react in a situation like that. It's not how the majority of us would react in a situation like that.
I think that's such a good point because I think the where it comes from is, again, fantasy. I think we all want to feel like we could be that badass, cool girl who's completely unaffected, who doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks. But the truth is, most of us aren't actually that girl. And so I think that having the fantasy of being that girl and having that fantasy of the mafioso or whatever, it really fits together. And I also think, and this is just a theory that I have, I think sometimes for a lot of readers, when a character resonates too much with their own insecurities, it's uncomfortable. And so sometimes you're like, oh, I actually don't really like this person. And I've even found myself reading a book and be like, I don't really like this person. And then I think, well, why don't I like this person? I think it's because they have some of the same flaws and insecurities that I do, that I struggle with. And it's a little triggering to read about them going through these same things that I am. Of course, not everyone is having a self-aware readership experience, but I think if they did, it would be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of us, I mean, Mandy, you and I talk about this all the time. In a way, you picture yourself as the heroine. So always.
I think a lot of people self-insert. It's really interesting. I don't at all. In like almost a psychopathic way. Sometimes I'm like, why don't I literally at all? I think it's because, and maybe it's because I'm a writer, I don't know, but it's more like an anthropological study for me when I read and when I write. Like, I don't feel like any of the characters are me. My sister-in-law, when she first started reading my book, she was like, I can't read them because it's like my brother and you. And I was like, honey, your brother is a realtor who golfs. He's not a criminal mafioso. Like, let's be so for real. Like, this is not happening. Like, you have a golden retriever. Like, let's be real.
Exactly.
Okay? He wears polos unironically. So because of that, I think, I come at it as like, when I'm writing as a biographer telling a story about these people that are relating their story to me. And when I'm reading, it's almost like I'm reading a history book or something like that, where I don't feel like I am ever that character. So sometimes it does catch me off guard when I talk to people and they're like, oh, I'm the heroine always. Like, even if they have brown hair, I'm blonde, so they're blonde, or whatever it is. And I think it's super interesting. And it also accounts for the fact that not everyone's going to like the same thing, because we're all so wildly different that there's just no way that everything's going to be palatable for everyone. And especially with the books that I write that are so morally gray, forbidden, dark, I'm almost intentionally setting out to not be palatable to everyone. And so I have to own the fact that I'll have bad reviews, or someone might really hate my books, or whatever that is. And the joy that I get from writing those types of stories has to outweigh the negative feedback that I'm inherently always going to get, just because I'm not writing super easy to read kind of romance novels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. I actually don't mind it at all. When I first started out, I was very sensitive and it was hard.
Of course.
And now I just giggle kind of maniacally.
I love that you look at it that way. So
it takes time, but
there are some authors, though, who actually take the bad reviews and use those for publicity, because a lot of the times the bad reviews are complaining about what exactly the entire point of the book was.
Totally. And I find them so funny. Some of them are so on point. I even think, some of them are, they just make me laugh. Like, I had a book called The Affair, and there were a number of reviews that were like, this book is about cheating, 1 star. And I'm like, hey, girl, the title is The Affair.
The Affair.
Sometimes it just, it doesn't matter. And you know what? I do think that hate reading is a real thing as well. I do genuinely. People are like, I don't like this, but I'm going to read it and I'm going to be nasty about it. It's going to make me feel good. And I do think that negative posts and comments right now on socials do pretty well. Yeah. So, I do think that negative publicity in a sense is still publicity, and you can't do anything about it. Like, people are going to hate your stuff. There's no point in replying to every comment. There's no point in standing on your soapbox and trying to justify why you make the choices that you do. Yeah. If someone likes it, that's great. If someone doesn't, that's okay too.
Yeah. We've had a few too where I can think of a couple where I've hated a book for whatever reason. And we've had viewers who will comment, be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go get that book after the 10-minute rant about why I didn't like it, which we try not to do that because it's every author's baby and whatever. But there's been a few times that I've been like, either I'll say it's really controversial and I liked it, and they'll be like, I'm going to get it because it's controversial. Or they'll be like, well, she hated it, but it intrigued me, the things that you talked about. And so I'm going to go read it. So it's totally a thing.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's almost like a safe space like a safe outlet for negativity. Like, say that you're having a really bad day or you're having a hard time. Sometimes it's so much easier to kind of rant about something that is disassociated from you, like a piece of art, than it is to rant about the actual circumstances of your life. And so I don't think it's even necessarily unhealthy. I think sometimes that's, again, I think what art is meant to do. It's supposed to be this outlet of expression and emotion. So even if it's not our intention to have someone like hate on our book, I always think it's better than someone just being like, 3 stars, this was bland as hell. At least in my opinion.
Exactly. Gives you something to work with.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I've heard from some, I was reading something from some authors had written about like reviews, and they were saying that 3 stars are actually like the worst, because it's like you almost had them, but didn't get them there. Like if they rated a 1 or a 2, then it's like, well, it just wasn't for them. But that 3 stars, like you almost had them.
I actually kind of agree with that. I do feel a 3 star is a bit of a dagger. Sometimes also you read a 3 star and it's glowing. Like it's a beautiful review. And then you're like, 3 stars, baby? Like, was this a slip of the finger on the cursor? Like what happened? And so there definitely are, I think a 3 star, it does just hit in this purgatory in your brain where you're like, okay, well, I can deal with it if they hated it. I can deal with it, obviously, if they loved it. But what do I do with these people who are like,
Yeah.
And that's a hard one. I do think that I also have this theory, I'll share it with you guys, that readers for dark romance, I think, are more polarized, are more likely to give a 5-star or a 1-star than readers who read like small town romance or sports romance. I also think that they're much more accepting of outside of the box plot points and character traits. So I think like the risks that I can take as a dark romance author, not just with like violence and erotica or whatever, but honestly, even with like character personalities, with kind of quirky plot points, all these things, I have more space with my readers to be accepting and joyful about those than I think that small town romance authors and kind of sports authors do, because they're used to a certain type of archetype and story arc and kind of vibe that is a little bit more narrow. Than dark romance kind of blows the top off of everything, like kind of everything goes. And I really enjoy having a little bit more freedom to be surprising, to be controversial than not.
Yeah, I think that's true, because as a dark romance reader, we're like, okay, how are you going to one up this? And you're always looking like he could be scarred all over and not even that pretty, and we're still going to like him.
Totally. You're so right. And like they can be meaner to each other. They can have absences. They can, the hero can, sleep with another girl. Like there's all these things that are more acceptable. Obviously context is still important. Like we don't just want them to be awful to each other all the time. Yeah. But I do love having more room to play. I think in terms of who I am as a writer, having that creative playground be a little bit more intense is exciting for me. Like knowing that, like, for example, the book that I just finished writing, it was just an unhinged idea that came to me one day. I was like, wow, that's probably a little too much. Like, that's probably like, when would I write this? And I pitched it to a publisher and they were like, let's do it. And I was like, what?
Love it.
What are you talking about? Right? Like, I can't believe this. But I think because they knew that I operate in this space and that my want me to one up myself all the time, that they're like, give it to me, girl, give it to them. Like they want to see you be unhinged. And that's exciting versus having to kind of censor yourself to make sure that it's going to be palatable to everyone.
Yeah. So when is this unhinged book coming our way?
In 2026.
Ooh, okay.
And that's through publishing, your publisher, not indie released.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I do like that. Yeah. I do like that publishers are starting to wake up to the fact that we don't want the cookie cutter romance anymore. We want a little bit more or a lot of it more.
Honestly, the first time that I did work with a publisher, I was really nervous because I love being indie. I love wearing all the hats. I love making all the executive decisions. You have to be a little bit of a control freak to thrive, I think, as an indie author. So I was really nervous, like, oh, I don't know, like with the cover, with the concept. And I'd had some friends relate to me some negative experiences, like, oh, they told me that it was too sexy. They told me that it was too dark or too violent or whatever. And I'm like, but I'm sexy, dark, and violent. What am I going to do? The anxiety. And so I was really nervous, and I had such a pleasant experience of just being really upfront at the beginning, like, hey, this is kind of who I am. This is what you're bringing on. Like I would think intentionally. So I just want to know, like, what are my parameters? And I think that, when now that I'm kind of a hybrid author and working with publishers as well as being indie, that's the one thing that I never really want to give up is like my writing content brand. Like they can do what they want with branding the book, with marketing the book. I know that they bring a whole different kind of talent to that arena. But in terms of what I write, like, that's why people read my books, and that's why I write my books. And so I don't ever really want to compromise on what brings me joy in creating, because I think that's why people enjoy reading my books.
Right. Yeah. And I like that, because that's one thing we fear when you hear about authors being picked up by publishers. Well, are they going to ruin or change, or what are they going to do to my favorite book by this author? Or, how is this going to be different? So yeah.
And I think that publishers are, as you said, waking up to the fact that there's a whole market for dark romance, for forbidden romance that hasn't really been tapped into with traditional publishing really at all. And they're starting to figure that out, and they're like, oh my God, let's go for it. And I think that does really well. Like, I think a good example is Rena Kent writes some pretty unhinged books. And they're with a trad publisher now, and it does really well. And I think that it's nice to, I'm also of the belief that anyone doing well in romance is great for everyone in romance. Like we want to see everyone get a book deal. We want to see everyone get a movie deal. We want to see everyone succeed because that's great for everyone. It's great not only for the authors even, but for the readers. Like we want more content, you know, we want more movies based on our favorite books. We want more books in bookstores. We can just go to Target and pick it off the shelf. Like that's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Dane Anderson?
Yes, we definitely can. I know, right? He does such a good job with Rafa's accent. I swooned the first time because I write Italian heroes quite a bit, and I'm very particular about the accent because sometimes it sounds very Dracula, very good evening. And you're like,
or Mario. There was one that I listened to. I loved the book, and I'm like, oh, she got audio for this book. And I swear it was like listening to either Mario or Luigi. And he sounded too old. And I was like, oh my God, what is it? Totally took me out of the book. So I can appreciate what you got going there.
As it does, it really does take you out of the book. And I'm really specific about my narrators because I do find like, I think the first time I ever did audio, I had sold the rights to a novella and I was still a baby author. I didn't really get it. And they produced it and they didn't ask for my opinion about anything. And I listened to about 30 seconds of the audiobook and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh. And I was so sad because obviously it's your work and it's so wonderful to bring it to life with real voice actors who it makes it so vibrant. And to get that wrong is just the worst thing ever. As a reader and as an author, you're just like, no. And so we had auditions. I always audition for to make sure that the accent is okay.
Yeah.
And usually like I'll have them do quite a few parts because they can maybe get one sentence right, you know, or one clip right, but then suddenly it does slide into the Luigi Mario situation. You're like, no, I can't have a sex scene with Mario.
No,
tragic.
Not Luigi either.
No, neither of the brothers.
No. Oh, I love it. So you interviewed him, like you had choices.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So I released these books with Montlake, and it's been really wonderful working with them because they're really about like they're author focused on, you know, you also having a say in the process and kind of appreciating that this is also your story. And so they were really great with me. Like, hey, do you have people that you want? We'll try to get them. No guarantees, obviously, but like, let's do what we can. And I wanted both CJ Bloom for Guinevere and Dane Anderson for Rafaela. So it was perfect. And the first time that I heard it, I heard a sample, I was like, oh yes, like shivers down my spine. This is the Italian hero that we want whispering dirty nothings in our ear.
Yes, for sure. And so for those at home that are waiting to pick up this book when it releases, which will be out now, audio is same day release as the book. So appreciate when authors are able to make that happen. We know that it's not always a thing because first of all, audio is expensive. And second of all, it just doesn't always line up because you really have to plan ahead, but we love it when it does happen. So
yeah, I mean, I think it was like mid 2025 and people were already booked up for 2026.
Yeah.
So it is because audio has gotten so popular, it is really hard to make that work. And depending on how you work as an author, it might not work, but it is always so lovely to be able to give people that experience, that immersive experience, that inclusive experience, because a lot of people can't eyeball read. So I'm happy that we have that for My Dark Ever After.
Yeah. And there's a lot of us that like to eyeball read and listen at the same time while we're reading it, we read along. So
totally. The immersive experience, baby. It's lovely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this was a duet, but is there any plans to go back into Italy with some more mafia or say yet? Or
there's a smirk. I see a smirk.
I just trying to think about what to say. There are no plans to go back to Italy with that world right now.
Okay.
I know a lot of people after reading the duet have, even in their early reviews, have said, oh, I really want, side characters, blah, 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 to have a story, two in particular. And I understand why that is. But I personally feel like their stories almost being told a little bit too thoroughly in the duet. And so I don't think that I'm going to be doing that.
Okay.
But I will always go back to Italy. And I do think I do have a project where the unhinged one, where Italy is a part of it. So I'm not done with Italy. I never will be. And I'm not done with Mafia. I'll never be done with Mafia, but it's not quite the same world as Rafa and Guinevere's Tuscany Mafia.
Okay.
Okay.
That was
my complicated
way to find out some info about those other people. But I do see
I figured
that it would be a retelling quite a bit. So I do see your point.
Yeah. And I think that
what's going on yet.
Yeah, I mean, some people like don't mind that, but I kind of have found that I don't really think readers love it when you go over old territory, even though, of course, it would be from a different POV and there'd be more details and X, Y, and Z. I do think also creatively wasn't something that I thought about, oh, well, this could be a possibility, but didn't really light my fire.
Yeah. So you've been to Italy. We've
Many
seen
times.
Beautiful Instagram pictures. So how did you get inspired for this duet? Was it from being in Italy? Like, did anything particular happen, or did you just wake up and you're like, I'm going to write this?
That's such a good question. So I have what I call creative ADD, which is I get ideas for books like all the time. My ideas list on my phone is like hundreds of ideas. I have Pinterest boards and playlists for books that I have no idea when I'll have the time to write. And this one was very much when I had been in Italy, probably like 7 or 8 years ago. I had spent like about a month in Tuscany, and I just thought, this is the most romantic place. And a lot of people don't know that the Italian mafia operates throughout Italy. A lot of people think it's really Sicily or Naples. Like there's some hot spots, right? Particularly in the South, because historically it was poorer, more agricultural. And so that's where the mafia kind of thrived. But the mafia is perforated all throughout Italy, in the North too. And I thought when I was hanging out in Italy, I was actually reading this book about olive oil. And it was about how like the mafia also has its fingers in olive oil. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. And I'm just such a geek, honestly. Like I did my undergrad in English and history. Like I would read a book on the history of carpet. Like I just love knowing the origins and reasons why for things. So I was reading this random book on olive oil, and it got me thinking like agro-tourism and the mafia, that's such a thing that I've never read before, is kind of interesting. And as I was we were staying at this beautiful villa, and it was just the rolling hills of Tuscany. And I thought the romanticism of this beautiful place and what it represents to people who haven't even been versus the mafia and the underbelly of a criminal enterprise, such a good, like, kind of dig your teeth into contrast, that's kind of how this story was born. And then it was years later, actually, that I was pitching something to Montlake, and I was in Italy on my honeymoon with my husband. And I thought, I think this is the story that it's time for me to write the story. So I actually started writing it while I was in Italy on my honeymoon with my husband, which was cool. Yeah.
Well, because you're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of the feels, and you're, I think
I'm like,
awesome.
This is it.
I mean, your husband might not have thought that was as awesome as we think it's awesome, but it's awesome.
No, he's used to it. He's used to it. I usually write when he's in bed anyway, so it's all good.
He knew what he got himself into.
Totally. Yeah. I do get inspired a lot by travel. I love to travel. I'm obsessed with it. I love new cultures. I love new places. So a lot of my books take place in multiple countries, or they have a big influence, like the culture of the country that it's set in. And I don't think that will ever stop being kind of a hallmark of my books as well, just because it's a hallmark of my life, and it really fills my creative well.
Yeah. I love that. I do like, though, that your MC is in British Columbia, because I can picture that. Like, I can see that out my window, but I can picture that.
Well, so that's funny because, in the same way it was inspired by travel, because I was living in Europe at the time and I was quite homesick. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to write this. I had this idea for Lessons in Corruption. I really felt compelled. I was supposed to write a different book, actually. And I was just suddenly struck by this. I saw this picture of Christopher Mason, the model, leaning against a motorcycle, by a chain link fence, and he was looking over his shoulder like he was waiting for his woman to come join him. And it just sparked this whole book and then this whole series. And I just knew I had to do it in BC because that's my home, and I was missing my home, and I never read anything really set in BC. So it was special for me to just have that connection to home. And now I love it because back then, if you told me that I'd be known for writing an MC romance or that it would be ongoing, I'd probably be like, oh, I don't really think so. But I love that it's kind of my home base now, because it is my home base. It is where I live. It is where my heart is. So I love that I have that connection to
and I can only think of one other book. I mean, I know there's probably more, but one other book that stands out to me that started in Canada, and we can talk about that after we get done with this. But I read them both around the same time, but that one that was a little more scary than yours. So,
which one?
Laura Thalassa's Pestilence. Have you read that?
Is that set in Canada?
Yes, it starts in Winthrop.
Oh my God, I had no idea. That's so cool.
And
I had no idea.
Like, he goes down into Vancouver, out to, I think it was Victoria or Vancouver Island. I know that he goes out to one of the islands. Then he comes back in, like he's killing people as he's going, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Back in.
We're all dying.
They're all dying.
That's very cool.
Then he comes back in and like towards Blaine, and then goes down I-5. And so it was, I mean, that was really cool. But at the same time, I read it when we were in lockdown, and I was like, oh, no, this isn't cool.
Maybe we don't read about pestilence in lockdown. There's actually so Karina Halley, who we talked about before.
Oh yeah, she has Grave Matter.
She has Grave Matter, but she also has the whole Experiments in Terror series, which is set on Vancouver Island.
Okay.
She's got quite a few books set in Vancouver. She's got a whole cowboy series set in like northern BC, kind of interior BC. Elsie Silver's Chestnut Springs series is set in like interior BC.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I might have known that. It's been a while since I read it, though.
A lot of people think it's set in the States, but it's not. She's actually Canadian, and it's so there's a few, but it's just those are the only ones I know. And at the time, like most of those hadn't been written because I started Lessons in Corruption in 2017, so a long time ago.
Earlier.
So it's just always nice. I think we don't, all of us don't live in New York or Chicago or London,
right?
So it's nice to have kind of.
A lot of people think a lot of you guys live in the States, and that's not always the case. So,
totally. I always think it's funny when people are like, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, just so you know, I'm Canadian. First of all, just so you know, like, this is where I live. But that's okay. Lots of people don't know. And that's totally fine. I think some of us also, like, I don't care. I don't have to be Canadian with every breath I take. I mean, it's all right.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's always nice. I think I just love reading a romance novel that's set a little bit somewhere unusual. And then I also, because I love to travel, I feel like I get to travel through my books. Like that was my intention with My Dark Fairy Tale and My Dark Ever After. If you've never been to Italy, you'll feel like you've been to Italy after you read it. And that was part of the experience I wanted to give people.
Yeah. Now I feel like I need to go to Italy.
We need a book signing in Italy.
Yeah. I'm actually going to Rare Florence in 2026. So that'll be really fun.
That'll be fun. Yeah. We have a list of all of the countries we need to go to for book signings. We'll see when we get there.
Life gets in the way so much too. And it really, it's book signings are a lot. I actually have a podcast with Candy Steiner, and we just did an episode on book signings, and just for not just authors, but for readers too. They're freaking exhausting. They cost a lot of money. They cost a lot of time. And so it's really a huge investment to go to them. They're so fun. They're so worth it. But you almost need to like a week to get ready, a week to recover. So it's a big ask.
Yeah, because we just got home from Love in Vegas, which you didn't make it to that one this year, but we've seen you
the first time in years.
I know. So, and I felt all week long, I'm exhausted. I mean, there's a lot of work that came on top of that, but
it's exhausting. I think also like, ironically, a lot of readers are quite introverted. So then you throw us all in this huge jam-packed auditorium where it's loud. You have to interact with everyone. Everyone's kind of on, and you're like, oh my God. This is so not my vibe. And it's okay because we're also excited, and it's an aberration from our real lives and stuff. So you can do it for like the 1-2 days, whatever, 3 days that you're there. But afterwards, I do think there's a crash out.
Yeah, the emotional battery gets drained real quickly. So exactly. Yeah.
Well, speaking of signings, do you have any coming up that you'll be at?
Yeah, so I just have like two small ones. So I'm doing one at the Ripped Bodice with Sarah Kate on November 1st to celebrate My Dark Ever After releasing. And then I'm actually doing one in conversation with Liz Tom 40 in Seattle on December 1st. And then after that, I'm not actually doing one until the end of 2026. I'm going to Boston with the Bells and Rare Florence. Normally I do like 4 a year. But I had been traveling so much the last few years. I'm a little bit burnt out of it. I'm like, I just want to stay at home a little bit more, enjoy my routines, and not feel like I'm leaving on an airplane every month.
Yes.
So that's my kind of, let's just chill out a little bit. I do always say that every year, and then I end up filling my calendar. So we'll see if I stick to this. But it's my intention to be like this.
Yeah, because we were just talking about going to one, and it's what we've done a lot. And we were like, oh, I don't know. Do we go again next year? And we were like, no, we don't. And then Mandy called last night and she's like, but look at the list of authors who's going to be there. And I'm like, oh, do we do it? Because we do anywhere from 5 to 8 a year. Like we do a lot. It depends on how many happen on the West Coast because, you know, we'll fly too. But if there's more on the West Coast, then we can fit more in. But they're exhausting. They're spendy. It's a lot.
It's just a lot. Yeah. And I think also just in terms of like your writing schedule, you're not writing kind of while you're there. Yeah, you're often exhausted when you get back. So it takes a bit to get back into your routine, and there's actually a lot of prep to go, right? You're ordering books, you're ordering swag, you're kind of organizing everything. You're probably making plans to see people. I mean, truth be told, I love seeing my readers and I love seeing my author friends. And that's why I go, you know, selling books, whatever, you don't really sell enough books to make it like the reason to go. You're really there to connect with people, which is lovely. But also, you know, I think I could be doing that 4 or 5 times a year, or I could also be writing books. And I think more people would rather have the books. I also really like this in conversation with, where you just have like a gal pal that you chat about with books, and then you have a little signing for an hour afterwards. It's a lot less taxing. It's a lot more intimate. Like that's one of the things about the big book conventions that makes me kind of sad, is I feel like it's a little bit industrial. It's a little bit factory line. And so, you know, like if you guys come up to my line, I want to chat, but we don't have time to chat. Like I can be like, hey, how are you? Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Hugs, you know, photo, bye. Exactly. Like it's just so quick. And as someone who's like such a one-on-one girly and really loves to dive into good conversation with people, I'm always a little bit remorseful. Like, oh, I'm sad that I only got to spend, you know, this much time with you. So I like the more intimate format of like having a little bit fewer people, a little bit more time to process those interactions. Yeah.
I like that too. Because you really get to know the author. The author gets to know you as the reader, and a little bit more than, like you said, more than we do at these signings, because it's literally a couple of minutes.
And like a lot of the time people are so stressed out, and that really makes me sad. Like people will come up and like, how are you guys doing? And I'm like, oh, you know, really stressed. I still have 18 people to go. And I'm like, oh, you're not even enjoying yourself. Like take a deep breath, like hold my hand for a second. Everything's gonna be okay.
You'll make it to your authors. You're fine. Just
everything's gonna be good. So I think, just a more low-key atmosphere is kind of what I'm leaning into a little bit more in the future.
Yeah. Definitely can appreciate that.
So before we wrap up, what do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, so many things. Well, I obviously spoke a lot about loving to travel. I love to cook and bake. Before I was an author, I was a food journalist and I owned a wholesale pie company. So I still really love to like unplug from my brain by cooking and baking. I'm a big like exercise girly. I love to go to the gym. I love to go for hikes outdoors. As we were talking about before the podcast, like we live in such a beautiful part of the world, getting outside and just enjoying how lovely and how you can be in nature in like a minute. You know, I live in a city, but I literally go like 15 minutes and I'm by the ocean or I'm in a forest, and I really enjoy that. I love music. I love movies and film. I mean, I just like love everything. I'll try everything once. So
I love you on a motorcycle a few times too.
My husband has a Harley. It's very funny. He's like, you wrote about a motorcycle because I have a motorcycle. I'm like, honey, you got a motorcycle because I wrote about a motorcycle club. You didn't even have one. Okay. And then you didn't even have a Harley. And I was the one that was like, baby, if you're going to have a bike, you need to have a Harley. So who influenced who here? I don't know. But yeah, I definitely love to ride on the back of a bike. I just think like, I'm just one of those kind of like super excited to be alive and try new things and meet new people kind of girls. So I will try everything. I have a whole list of things that I'm like, it's called my learning list of things that I would like to learn in my life. And I'm always trying to check some of those items off, which is also fun for writing because sometimes I give my characters, jobs or hobbies that I, aspire to or I think are really cool. And I feel like through osmosis, I kind of get the opportunity to experience that hobby or talent for myself, which is also really fun.
Yeah, that's a really great way to look at it too. That's fun. Yeah.
I was going to ask if your husband's motorcycle inspired the Fallen Men series, but apparently the Fallen Men series inspired him. So, okay.
Yeah. He does have like a Fallen Men sticker on his bike, which I love. And he's super supportive. He reads all of my books and he's very gung-ho, but no, I influenced him for sure.
Did you get him an MC jacket?
He has, yeah. I have like a really great, it doesn't have like the Fallen Men on it or anything, but I got him, obviously. I've got, like, I think when he first got his bike, I got him all of the appropriate attire. Because I was like, let's get you hooked up so you look like one of my Fallen Men. And I can have that fantasy in my real life. And it's all very exciting.
Before he goes golfing in his polo.
Exactly. Well, he's multifaceted, okay, which we all want to be. So he's got like, if you told me that I would have married a golfer and have a golden retriever, I'd be like, what? I don't know about that. But he's also a biker. He's also an athlete. He also has a little tiny bit of edge, just enough to make him not pure vanilla, which, if you've read my books, I'm not really about a pure vanilla kind of lifestyle.
Well, I always say I married a reformed bad boy because my husband was older when I met him and he'd already lived that crazy bad boy. I like there were things that he did that if my kids ever did them, I'd like die of shock. But now he's a golden retriever. So he was a bad boy at one point in time. And
but they say that's the best type of man. You get a reformed bad boy or you get a reformed player. And they really, my husband's kind of a reformed player. And like, it was like that whole trope that we love where, the man doesn't really care about any woman until suddenly he finds you and it's all about you. And you're like, let's go. We love this. Yeah. It's always fun I think that's also, I don't know if you guys find this, I'll end by asking you guys this question, but I feel like being involved in the romance community helps me find more romance in my own life and be appreciative of my own romance and feed into that a lot more. Do you find that that's the truth for you guys too?
Yes.
Yeah, we've always had a really great relationship that way, I think. But there's times when I look at him and I'm like, if I go to the Halloween store and get you a mask, would you, those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, like, for sure.
Sure. I was like, but don't chase me in the woods because I'll probably trip.
And also, the chasing thing scares me. The mask thing is good. I like the mask thing.
Yeah. So, I think it does. It helps a lot. And I started reading romance when I was going through a double mastectomy and stuff. And so for me, that was a big deal because that is the last thing I'm thinking about. My body was a disaster. He didn't care. He thought it was beautiful no matter what. But it kept things going where, it helped. It helped a lot. So
totally. I love that. I do think, I just always get so annoyed when people are disparaging about romance as if it's less or other or something. The truth is that the reason that I love writing romance is I can write any kind of story that I want. The heart of it just has to be a love story. And I think that the heart of our lives is often a love story or trying to find a love story. And so it's so applicable and it's so realistic and it's so kind of something felt in everyone's bones. We all want love in our lives and we all deserve love. And so reading about people who feel like they don't deserve it and they get it or have these obstacles to it or go through these traumas and then they get it, it's just so rewarding. And life is hard. And romance novels can be hard too, but knowing that you have that HEA is just what we want in our real lives. And I think it's really healing.
Yeah, I know. Mandy doesn't mind having a non-traditional or having a non-HEA once in a while because you like thrillers and stuff too, right?
I do. I like a good mystery.
I do too.
Yeah, but I've got to have that happily ever after the couple thing. There has to be a love story. Even if I'm reading a thriller, I'm like, I need a love story. I don't always need the open door scenes. And you're going to find that in any genre for the most part. But there's sex in all sorts of genres. So us getting, a bad rap for that with romance blows my mind all the time because you can find it anywhere. But I do need that love story. So.
I wanted to be a writer since I was 8 years old, and I wasn't like I wanted to be a romance writer since I was 8 years old, but I settled on romance because I was like, what is something that I have that all of the books I've ever loved have in common? It's a good love story. And it gives me the span to write about whatever I want, as long as there's a love story that's kind of the perfect combination of freedom and also like always coming back to the thing that brings me joy, which is people finding love, which is like just lovely.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end.
Yeah,
I do too. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Inspiring. Sorry, my cat wants to be included.
She's gonna jump up and show us her tail here in a minute. She loves to do that. Okay, well, let's wrap it up and then we'll talk after. There she is. I know. Well, so everybody go out and get the duet because now it's completed. Yes. They can read both if they haven't read the first one. So start with My Dark Fairy Tale. And then finish up with is it My Dark Ever After? Yes, I always want to say My Happily Ever After, but it is My Dark Ever After.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We can finally make this happen after a couple of years of talking about it. So,
me too. So great to talk to you guys. So much fun.
Same, for sure. And thanks to everybody at home watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Thank you.